I guess we're live. So we don't know if we're actually live. Let's go see here. Say something. Hello there. It's gonna take a while for people to come in. But before we get going, I mean, might as well just get going. I only have an hour. Hey, Carlos. Carlos is faithfully here every Sunday. I noticed that. We'll have to get him in the Discord sometime. So today, I'm very selfishly going to ask a question about YouTube versus Twitch. There's lots of stuff that if anybody else has a topic they want to bring up, but that's one that I'm kind of personally interested in. And beyond that, I just need to announce to everybody that we will be starting coffee chats at 12 noon my time starting next week. That will put all my calendar consistently in the same kind of level, so I don't have to. So if we ever go really late on a Saturday night, which we tend to do, we'll be fine. So it'll still be an hour long. I hope that doesn't affect anybody else's schedule too horribly.
Nope, works for me.
Okay, and then and then we're be starting at 12 on. Well, my day starts at 12 on Saturdays as well, so that just makes it consistent. I won't get into the RWX live stuff right now. I just kind of wanted to jump right into that topic. We'll probably have people trickle in, but we might as well go ahead and talk about it before they get here. I mean, it's just us right now, looks like. So, what are your guys' thoughts on whether or not to publish content on YouTube first, and then in terms of education, Scream, have you done any of this? I mean, what have you done?
So actually, my educational content for my classes was always on YouTube. I didn't do anything on Twitch, and for a while I had kept things separate because I kind of had, in a sense, two brands. I had my gaming brand and my teaching brand.
Right.
And those have kind of merged on Twitch now because I kind of got to the point where I didn't want to manage both, and I was more accustomed to the Twitch workflow at that point, so it was easier.
You know that I'm putting a thumbtack in that because I want to come back to that. That is I actually have some notes from last week about the things we want to talk about. But this the merging of brands, I want to talk about that because that happens on Twitter all the time. I've been following this stuff for a while, and we'll come back to that. So so what were you saying? So you merge your brand and then.
Yeah, so I actually haven't really done very much on YouTube. And the only thing that I ever really do on YouTube is I'll post tutorials for things. Mm-hmm. So when I have a very specific piece of content in mind that is more geared towards a VOD than doing something live.
Right.
And I don't, we talked about this before with scripting. Do you script things? Do you not script things? I tend not to fully script them, but I write it out as if it's a script.
Right.
So if I have something in mind that I'm writing in that style, I'm already thinking about doing that as a VOD and putting it on YouTube as opposed to doing it on Twitch.
Yeah.
Or I might do a dry run on Twitch to get the flow of the things that I'm going to say, even though I've written it, and then I'll make a VOD for YouTube.
Yep.
So it just kind of depends.
Yeah, that's a good point. Happy Mother's Day, indeed. It is Mother's Day out there. Make sure you don't forget. But so I tended to do the same thing when I first started too. I would end up talking about the same thing because I get asked so many questions about it that it ended up being the dry run. And then I'd say, okay, fine, I'm going to do a video on this, and I've said it so many times now. I've kind of rehearsed this one little piece, and then I would try to save it off and everything.
Right, exactly.
So,
and then you can point people to something that's more polished rather than you periodically kind of repeating yourself.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was coming from too. I'd rather not repeat myself that much. I mean, it's but I mean, at a certain point you get so tired of it that you just you end up not doing that. Let me get rid of some of this crazy music. So do you have any thoughts on that, Og, or anybody else who might be in the chat right now?
So Binary just joined us, so welcome on in there, Binary.
Oh, hi, Binary.
How are you?
Good. Anybody else have any thoughts on the YouTube versus Twitch for education kind of discussion?
Oh, that's actually a really good conversation topic because I don't tell this to a lot of people, but I'm a teacher.
Oh, wow.
I'm an elementary teacher,
Fantastic.
and so yeah, at the middle school level,
Mm-hmm.
and so YouTube I find is a very very rich tool in terms of that asynchronous type of learning, right?
Yeah.
So like
Right.
it
That's
comes
good.
into a bit of the conversation topic, like what's better? Is it synchronous learning or is it asynchronous?
Mm-hmm.
And essentially what it is like either being able to learn on the spot. So essentially what you're doing, Rob, is synchronous type of learning
Yeah.
where like you're teaching on the spot. Everybody's watching this one stream together and you're there to ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
Where at Tube, like the resources are there from the very get-go,
Yeah.
right? And so I find that YouTube is very rich in that I can send a video link to students
Yeah.
and they can watch it on their own time when they want, get what they want from it, and then be able to go back and then rewatch like a certain part that they may not have understood or that they need a little bit more clarity on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just to be able to view the concept again and again.
Just to interject just really quick. So in terms, so it sounds like, the flipped idea, like a lot of times there's asynchronous videos, people go watch them and then they come together, and kind of for the, the classroom experience of a flipped classroom online is sort of the live thing. So they kind of go together. Maybe it's not one or the other. Maybe it's, some combination of those. So yeah. What else do you have anything else you'd like to add to that? I mean, I love your input on that.
So, like, you're right. It is using both, because right now, being a teacher, like I'm forced. I was forced into this whole like teaching online thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether I liked it or not, like this is the reality now, and I have to teach online.
Boy, talk about that a little bit. I mean, because you were somebody who wasn't already doing it, who was like, oh man, I've got to get used to this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And
go ahead.
So like now I'm doing like a combination of both, where I have to like I organize Google Meets because that's the platform that we're using as an organization. We're using Google Meet, so I have to organize these Google Meets with all my students twice a week.
Do you mind my asking the age
the rest
of your...
I kind of fill up with whatever else that I want.
Do you mind my asking the age of your students? Because
they're around 12 to 13 years old.
Okay, because that's kind of the threshold. I actually knew some elementary teachers, one of whom actually was also a bartender. She's really an interesting person to talk to, and I would really love to get her insight into all of this, because the elementary teachers are there. I mean, she's an elementary art teacher. It's like that job can't be done online.
You're right. It is a very, very difficult one to accomplish. And in my situation, I'm fairly lucky where the subjects that I teach are a little bit more theoretical in nature. So I teach French and I teach science.
Oh, nice. Mais c'est bon ça.
So
really
like those are more theoretical based subjects. So therefore, like I can find those resources on YouTube. I can find those resources or those pages of information to be able to give them some extra work. Like organize some projects and stuff like that.
Yeah, actually, I'm just taking a note here really quick. I want to come back to this topic another day. Language training online for mentoring. This comes up on my stream a lot. I don't want to derail the topic today, but I'd really love to come if you want to participate, maybe next week or some other week. I have had several. I'm already derailing us, but I just want to say I've already had several opportunities to practice my Russian and French online that I've never had before streaming. The chances of me running into somebody who spoke Russian or French was very low, and so I'd like to open that topic another day in terms of like foreign language mentoring online, and maybe we'll come back to that. So back to the YouTube and Twitch topic. So, any other opinions on that? Let's see. Timestamps on YouTube allow for fast skimming of content. That is something that continues to come up. You can also fast forward. I think for offline content, there's just no comparison. I also noticed that you get transcoding on YouTube and YouTube live streams. So, I mean, I don't think anybody's going to really argue that Twitch is a better platform for asynchronous content, stuff that gets saved. Hey, Ramingo. Hey, man, if you want to come into the Discord, we'd love to hear you.
He mentioned the classes that are harder to teach online. So what happens to those students that are, almost getting left behind because they're not getting the same experience or as much experience as the ones before all this?
That's a good question. Yeah.
So this is a topic that comes again and again from the board, from like unions and all that, and like and even the Ministry of Education will often try to jump in and give their opinion on the matter, right? Like there are a lot of different situations happening across the board, right? Some do not have access to reliable internet. Some don't even have access to a reliable hardware. Some people like, and I could go on. There's a million and one things that can happen.
Hey there. Yeah, no, the access issue, I mean, all by itself, that is another huge topic. Is like, the people who don't even have, I actually tried to go into education once. It's called lateral entry. In case anybody's interested in America, they have a program where if you are in corporate America or something like that, and you want to get a fast track to becoming a teacher, they have a thing called lateral entry, which lets you kind of bypass your certificate and just get doing it. And then as long as you're working toward your certificate anyway. So I had a lot of people on Twitter actually help me get into it. And ultimately helped me decide not to do it because it was such a hassle just to go. And I started my own school, blah, blah, blah. But the point being is that they would tell me, I had one teacher sit down with me and she said, look, if you really want to help us out, figure out how to help the people who don't have access, the people who don't have phones, the reason that they're sending papers home, stapled to people's shirts is because some people still don't have, smartphones or email. And so the digital divide was really affecting. And those are the people that got really left in the dust by all of this. I mean, you can't just all of a sudden, give them that access. It's going to be interesting to see how that affects our social systems, whether internet access becomes more of a utility going forward or not. So
old conversations about things like that in a way.
I mean, these are big ones in terms. So like if you don't have YouTube or Twitch access, I mean, here we are debating what's the best platform for digital access, but there's another issue underneath that is like, well, what if you don't even have that? So timestamps, flipped, asynchronous learning on YouTube. So this is so I've never actually met Professor Messer, but I watched many of his things he's done, and I think he's done a lot of things right. He's obviously got a very big following on YouTube, and he's chosen YouTube as his live streaming platform over Twitch, and I have no background. Anybody know his background? Because lots of educators. I wish Bob were here. He's probably not here right this morning.
Yeah, Bob and I actually had a pretty interesting conversation with his chat yesterday about topics along these lines, and it's related to the affiliate program and monetization in a way, because it's like you kind of force your hand in a way in choosing to monetize with Twitch because you have that 24-hour delay and you can't live stream simultaneously on multiple platforms.
Right.
That was the thing that
go ahead. Keep going.
Bob was looking at yesterday, because he's not there yet, but he's like, well, if I can do this on multiple platforms, he's looking at Facebook, he's looking at everything. Yeah. So
I think I might have triggered that on him. I actually asked him that question yesterday. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over your screen.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying that I actually asked him that question yesterday directly, and I think that a lot of us are starting to think about it, because I chose to go with affiliate because part of me, it's obviously there's the money. You can't even have subscribers without affiliate. So those kinds of things. But of course, then the harder thing, the whole transcoding goal. So, it's a tough one. Plus there also is the money in the advertising thing. Do they still advertise if you're not affiliate? I'm just curious. Does anybody know?
I don't know.
That'd be interesting.
I've gotten an Amazon ad one time when I started watching a stream recently.
Oh, you did?
It was just at the start, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. So here's some comments. I personally wish that Twitch would add an education category. We've been asking about that for a while. And I just want to echo Mouse Potato's sentiment in the chat yesterday. I do get frustrated by this stuff. I'm still extremely grateful for Twitch. I don't mean any, bad feelings toward the company or the organization. That's not just because I'm streaming and I'm shooting for partner. I legitimately really appreciate discovering Twitch. It's really changed my life in many ways. So, but sometimes I'm like, well, why can't we have transcoding in the educational channels? And is that going to cause a problem because all of a sudden, everybody decides to categorize themselves as education because they get free,
something like that.
That's probably
like how you draw the line.
Yeah. I mean, if you're streaming, I mean, that would be such a policing headache for Twitch as an organization if they gave free transcoding to one of the categories.
I don't think they could.
Yeah.
Is that even viable? Like, I don't know the back end
of
Twitch all that much, but I mean, like, can they even allow that to happen in a sense, right? Because you're right. Then it would cause a big headache.
I mean, there's already a mechanism for it because they have it for partners versus affiliates. But I think the larger issue, like Rob brings up, is like, how do you subdivide it? Because even binary, because we know people in smaller gaming communities who would really like to have transcoding, because and you feel bad when you're streaming and then somebody's like, hey, I can't really watch the video because it's cutting out. Everybody wants that, but the problem is that there's a very strong argument to be made for it being very important for education, and a lot of people are not going to see it like that if there is an exception and they're not part of the exception. So I think that's probably part of the reason why they might not be doing something like that.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is something I learned in 7 years of running my business. You're kind of forced into catering to the lowest common denominator. You have to think about that one-off person who's going to do something that's, unusual, but really damaging. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of sucks because you can't just run your organization based on a higher expectation. You have to say, well, there's going to be that one person who's not going to, pay their enrollment fees until, 3 months after that. Actually, I don't mean to tangent on this, but this is about mentoring, so I'll say it. Mr. Nice Guy waits, says, oh, fine, you get to it. You go, well, I'm working on it. How about 6 months later, still no payment? 7 months later, no payment. So, this is one example of this, but there's always going to be people that are going to take advantage of this situation, and that goes for like offering transcoding, as well. So you have to make a policy, and then good people that you trust, that are going to pay on time, you say, I'm sorry, I need to make sure you pay here. It wouldn't be fair if nobody, I know that you can wait just because you've been very trustworthy, but I have to hold to the policy just because, and it's less personal and all kinds of things like that.
Right.
So
there's also intermediate cases like Binary and I who do gaming streaming in addition to educational streaming, and then people will, maybe I forget to turn it off when I'm gaming or something, and then or like I'm tempted to use it because I have it or something, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of gray area. It's a tough thing. Speaking
of gray area, people know about Last Miles. I'm not gonna tell them about him. He's quite an interesting character. I do actually enjoy watching his stream on occasion. And he mentioned the other day, after drinking an entire bottle of scotch, that he was going off, frankly, on these Twitch people who had visited his channel and asked him what he was doing, and because I actually checked in because I noticed he was categorized under art. And I was like, he's normally science and tech. So I only tell that story just to say that there is, Twitch does care about the category. So they do look around, and they apparently, they do so there is some policing already going on. So it's not, maybe that helps toward that goal of loosening the transcoding. I think ultimately, after Amazon's had a hold of the company for a while, how long ago was it that you couldn't even stream unless it was game related? Does anybody know?
It's prior to the acquisition of by Amazon, I think, because before Twitch, it was Justin.tv, and that was purely gaming. And early Twitch was also purely gaming.
Really?
And I think it's the acquisition by Amazon that kind of started pushing into different directions, like fitness, music, and I think science and tech, and food.
Oh.
Food was another one.
Okay, so he went to art because he was watching movies. Okay, I thought maybe they had asked him to change his category. It seemed like he was mentioning on this stream. So okay, well that's because I actually just encountered a random reference to the days before, somebody said, Wardrobe says, the good old days, and yeah, there was even a creative section in 2016. Interesting. So. It does seem like they're branching out. I'm still sort of triggered by every export I make, put adds a games tag to my YouTube videos. There's nothing to do with games in my tags, and it's like one of the few vestiges of the whole thing. So I don't know. I want to believe that eventually, to be competitive, they're going to add transcoding after they've been under Amazon's care for a while. And I imagine if their infrastructure comes up, so I'm gonna hold out for that. Frankly, I'm not really impressed at all with YouTube's live streaming offering. I'm just gonna say it. It doesn't.
Well, they really did it to compete with Twitch,
yeah.
right? So they are quite behind in that aspect, and like at the same time, they're trying to market themselves to be a little different than Twitch, right? In that aspect, are they succeeding? Debatable.
Yeah, but
they're different.
Yeah, they're definitely
different.
There's this. I mean, streaming in general is just taking the world by storm right now. I mean, everybody's is trying to stream. I'm just a fun little thing I have to notice is, I mean, I remember watching
your own TV channel.
Yeah, it's like your own TV. They call it. There's a term for it. I don't know if it's a marketing driven term. Was it like no, live TV is what they're calling it. Live TV. The marketing towards some people. I was just reading like some general blogs out there, and it's actually really taking over the world. The thing that I find really fascinating is this whole COVID thing, and all of these people who have huge production teams to make their thing are now all of a sudden relegated to 800 by 600 grainy and then I was watching I don't remember if it was Scream or Prime Video, and I'm watching one of these live channels and I'm like, the quality of this content right now is like way better than this professional television show, and it basically just annihilated, the gap between the two. And all of a sudden, all of the live streaming content is better quality content than, the network content. And they really had to up their game. I thought that was really interesting. Anybody have any thoughts?
I think one of the things that really ruins regular TV is they have that 4-minute commercial break every 15 minutes. Like, I don't watch TV anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, as soon as a commercial break would come on, you're like, oh no, not another.
Yeah.
And then really you just go watch something else and you don't come back.
Yeah, you
Right.
really you
It
do.
ruins the vibe.
Yeah. Well, I haven't watched. I did notice that my Vizio television, they added free TV. That whole Pluto TV thing. And there's not a lot of educational material there, and there's lots and lots of ads. It's actually kind of nostalgic to watch an ad. I mean, I haven't actually watched an ad on television by choice for, God, I don't know how long. We haven't even had a television for more than 15 years at this point. So, I mean, like a plug-in cable television. So yeah, right. Cut the cord about 3 years now. Yeah. So yeah, I didn't touch TV for like 15 years. Yeah. So I think we were some of the early adopters in terms of dropping traditional television, including cable, because there was so much going on with streaming. So this does relate to a few things about this topic of YouTube or Twitch. I think the takeaway might be that both those platforms are being sort of pressured by the industry to produce, and thank God there's some competition between them, because that's good for us. That means that they'll, but where do you stay until that happens? Thing.
I would
Yeah, go ahead.
I would say, although the transcoding and the 24-hour period is quite annoying, for me the thing that Twitch provides is the discoverability.
Yeah.
Like, I don't go to YouTube to ever watch live streams.
Right.
In fact, I try to avoid YouTube just because I try to avoid the big five.
Yeah.
But Twitch, you can find so many different streamers, and thankfully I found you because it's the only stream I pretty much watch now. But I would say the thing that I like about YouTube is obviously the archival aspect and being able to go back and watch the videos like Binary was saying.
Yeah.
And I've also found that the quality of YouTube videos is much better than the VODs of Twitch.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, a big thing for me.
Yeah, I had an issue with that yesterday. That really, somebody reported yesterday that one of my 3-hour streams, at one point in the middle of the stream, the voice got out of sync, and I don't have enough information to blame Twitch for that. It might have been my OBS or something, but that is a big deal. I mean, if your voice gets out of sync with your, so the quality issues on YouTube are much higher. You know what else I noticed too about YouTube? So I watched a random guy, and it was like the top, the top 6 ways to get into streaming, and he could have covered the entire material in maybe 2 minutes. Have you ever run into this on YouTube? When people make a huge big deal out of content that could have been communicated without losing a drop of meaning in like 2 or 3 minutes, but they make a big deal and they talk about it at length, and then they do, they have like graphics, and they have big things in the intro, and they're like really jazzy because they're trying to push their tube, anyway,
like and subscribe.
You like and subscribe. It's like, what are the top 5? And I'm like, I'm going to tell you right now, this is what you're going to do. And I'm like, I mean, it's kind of morbid curiosity. It's the same reason you watch, some of the advertisements that come on at 3 a.m. if you got your television on in the old days.
Oh yeah.
It's like
I almost want to see how is it they're pitching this thing.
Yeah. How are they?
It's fluff for the most.
Yeah, there's just so much fluff, and I want to say that the live streaming stuff, it's not so much fluff as much as a lack of focus. That would be my case. So. You see what I'm saying? It is algorithm fluff. Explain that, Ninja Lena. What is?
They get higher on the search results.
You think so?
They're trying to, in a sense, game the system, play the YouTube algorithm to get your things seen more, because there's a certain nature of the way that YouTube content is, and a lot of it is like the like and subscribe sort of thing that you see these patterns that people fall into with the way they produce the content.
Well, is it just me? Is the whole world lost its mind and is like more interested in getting follows than they are producing good content? I mean,
I think the world has kind of been like that for a long time, but maybe I'm just cynical about it.
Well, in a day and age where becoming an influencer is actually a viable career, I think a lot of people want to go down that route. And then, a lot of people are trying to become that. So and let's face it, like, your viewers and like your audience can only, at least on Twitch, can only watch one person out. Maybe you'll have like maximum 2 streams going on. Otherwise, like, you're just overloaded, bombarded with information. Yeah. And this is kind of the same thing on YouTube, right? You can only watch so many videos on YouTube. At once. Yeah. No, I know. As a person. I know. And you'll just 24 hours in a day.
That's true. And that's why, I mean, I'm having this problem too. I actually had a person that I private mentor who asked me the other day, he's like, do I need to watch all 3 hours every day of your boost? Or can I just read the book and work? And I said, you can absolutely not watch the videos. And it also, brought home to me the importance of making, even if they're conversational and they're random, they still need to be covering things that aren't in the book, so that, at least I'm not rehashing it. It's more of so I think, because there's only so many hours in the day, and, we got a lot to do here, people. So it's like, what are you going to going to chop. And then there's the whole entertainment value of videos as well. And I accept that. That's a thing. So yeah. Anyway, I influence my children. I love that. Ninjalina, she's an influencer. I influence my children. So let's see. You could have good content and none see it. What's the purpose? This is true too. I mean, there are so many.
Has all of their videos on YouTube freely available. I guarantee you, not a lot of people watch them or know about them.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. For me, the pandemic was cemented the reputation of MOOCs, MOOCs. Their potential was never the problem. It's a cultural problem. My worldview flipped. Yes, and MOOCs, aren't those the educational ones? What is a MOOC?
It's massively.
No, those are different.
Coursework, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. The big ones. Actually, at one point, tried to start as usual. I tried to make one. I thought that the answer would be MOOCs is. I think let's do a search here to get it right. What is MOOC? Okay, so massive open online course.
So there you go. Say, hey Google first.
So like stuff like Khan Academy and
okay.
Is that what I'm getting from that?
I think so, yeah.
It's different than Khan Academy.
A massive
it's usually more like what is it? CS 150 would probably be a good example of a MOOC.
Oh, you mean CS 50 from Harvard?
Like a traditional paradigm.
edX,
yes,
Coursera,
edX.
Udemy. Yeah, I think it's Udemy counts. I think it does. No.
Masterclass.
Actually, well, that is a topic all by itself too. I really like what they're doing with the masterclass stuff because they're like literally going to the authorities on the topic. It's almost like the manifestation of what I envision online education would be. We'd stick a camera, in front of the world's greatest masters of skills and knowledge. And then everybody else becomes a facilitator and a mentor because all we're really doing is helping them understand the masters. Because ultimately, I don't know. I like that. There's a lot, obviously we want to have everybody have a voice, but so anyway, that'd be really cool. Has anybody ever tried Udemy here? I'm not inclined to use it. It's just too much over. Masterclass from Gordon Ramsay is awesome. Has anybody done the Neil deGrasse Tyson one? I really want to do that one. Work account.
What does he teach?
What's that?
What does he teach?
He teaches scientific thinking. That's what he calls it. So it's basically how to not be influenced by the mass confirmation bias engine, which is the internet, search engines, stuff like that.
So, okay, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, I thought it would just be fine. Like the whole concept of like learning to challenge your own opinions and, whether you think their opinions are their facts, that just, unfortunately, the people that would watch it aren't going to be probably the people who need it. It's like, does Ramsey Masterclass accuse you of being a stupid sandwich? Oh, yes. That's the problem when you find masters. A lot of time they're not very patient. They're not good teachers. We saw from Pluralsight to Udemy. Interesting. So, there's a lot of ways to do education and mentoring online. I think, I know that I'm going to stay with Twitch at least for the rest of this boost. But I do wonder.
Bob.
Go ahead.
Hey, Bob.
Somebody join?
Yeah, Bob's here.
Oh, Bob, hi. Welcome. We were just talking about you. Maybe you heard it.
How's it going?
It's good. We were talking about you and Scream were talking about some stuff yesterday related to YouTube versus Twitch. Or in addition to Twitch, some things like that.
Yeah, I was telling them about how we had kind of a Discord text chat about it.
Oh wow, cool. Yeah, it's a tough. I meant to ask you about how is your school doing through this? Are they on? What is their approach to the online? I wonder if it's pushing people one way or another. Are they doing more YouTube open courses or? Are you guys? You're not back to meeting in person yet, I doubt, right? I'm sorry, I
No,
can't.
we're not.
I missed.
We're doing
Somebody.
mainly through
Somebody
the
else was.
LMS, which is not the greatest.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Google Elements. All right.
Can anyone tell me how Zoom managed to be the widely adopted streaming or video conferencing platform all of a sudden?
I don't know. It was big in enterprise. I know that. So
Well, it seems like every educational institution has adopted it, or at least the ones that I've heard of. And
I'm surprised they didn't go with Google. Most schools I have worked with are big into Google. So I do wonder why they didn't go with Google for maybe they don't have an offering in that space.
I think those institutions that already had a license with Google, like have for the most part continued with Google.
Mm-hmm.
Those who did not, well, they kind of had to find like an alternative, right? And
Yeah.
Zoom being the enterprise leading video conferencing tool probably went ahead with that, right? Because I mean, who uses Skype nowadays? Like,
So yeah, that's true, and that's it. That's what it was. It was a higher up, executive level consultant project manager, and she assumed we were going to use Zoom, and apparently that's what they use. I've heard at least at 3 big companies that's what they've always used for their conferencing, which is pretty scary, actually, considering what was come out about Zoom. Think about that for a second. Some of our biggest companies have been using Zoom to do business conferencing about corporate IP issues, intellectual property.
Cheap, I would say.
What's that?
It seems like higher ed is like they don't know why they use it. It's just a new thing, so they're using it because it's a new thing that they're hearing about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like there's no logical reason why they pick it over others. It's just like, okay, here's this new, it looks fancy, it's easy to use, but so are all the others. I'm just as surprised with the whole Zoom bombing.
Yeah.
Why we still default to it, and I don't necessarily use it. I use it's called Blackboard Collaborate to meet with my classes, but I know that institution wide is really Zoom.
Yeah,
well,
I was
especially with
go ahead.
security issues.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, especially with what?
Especially with the security issues that seem to have come out of it.
Yeah.
The New Zealand government released a PDF aiming not to use it in any confidential or government interactions.
Mm-hmm. M Theory's got a comment on this too. In my college, some guy close to the dean said, hey, this is Zoom, it works. And then the dean said to all the teachers, hey, this is Zoom, I think it works. He forgot that he paid thousands of dollars a year for Office 365 that has Teams, which is way better. And that has been my experience when I hear about a lot of the decision making in some of the bigger, particularly when you're in emergency mode, right? People just are grabbing at straws. I think Zoom was the easy one. That's what someone says. Many of the products we use are free for personal use, but companies have to pay. I think Zoom let's see, Binary says again, I think Zoom just happened to be the right place at the right time. In my company, anyone installing Zoom will be fired for security breach. Wow. Can I ask what kind of company that is? Liquid?
Good on them, Liquid. Good on them.
Fighting the good fight.
I'm just curious what kind of company has the guts to say it that way. Because, you founded it. There you go. Yeah. I don't know how expensive the license was. They do pay good money for those. Cisco is a good tool. But yeah, Cisco has kind of a history of charging the maximum amount of money they can for it. So yeah. So Bob, what are they using at the college? Do you mind my asking again? Oh, real estate investing. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I would think an investment, anything that's got secret information that could like seriously financially damage you. I wouldn't touch that stuff with a 10-foot pole. That's a saying, but
Google.
Google? Yeah, well, that's the other thing too. I mean, how many of those guys are looking at? So, I mean, let's get back more to the mentoring topic side of things. So, I mean, this is all interesting stuff in terms of like what platforms to use for education. We have the kind of group. There's so to me, this is another thing I kind of want to put my mind around. So, we talked about the live thing, and everybody knows that I chose to like focus on that above everything else. I chose to focus on the live element of learning because honestly, I don't think there's a lot of live educational opportunities out there. There's a lot of offline asynchronous things, and there's not a lot of them that are producing community. And I can't say how much I believe that I've come to learn anyway that community is a really, really core part of learning. It's the thing that makes college fun. If you're there with a group and you're all learning and you're studying together. If you are on your own, it's just not as fun. So I like that live element of it. So here we go. We have the live learning, the community-based learning. Hopefully, I suppose there's another angle on the live thing, which is live sort of lectures, which are not, for sort of interactive things. And then we have the non-live stuff, the async stuff, which is YouTube content. That's pretty much well covered. That includes Udemy, I would suspect. But then we have this other thing. We have this this group thing. It's like what do we call that? So like what we're doing right now, or Zoom, or is that MOOCs, or is that doesn't count? Does that fall under MOOC, or is that
collaborative learning?
I think it's still community in a way.
It's
certainly a lot closer to what you would get most ideally in person.
Yeah.
Because even when we're doing things like this, it's hard to, in a sense, like read the room because you don't see each other.
No, that's totally true.
Read expression, emotion, the same way.
And that is I have a story I've told before about this when I was big into Second Life as an educational stream. I would sit in the back and run the avatar for the person who was voicing into a virtual world, and they were up on the screen in front of this conference room, and the whole conference room was filled with people, and I was in the back and I could read the room, but the person giving the thing couldn't read the room, and he lost the whole room in the middle of it. It was like palpable. He was like doing really well for a while, and then the whole room checked out. I mean, it was like overwhelmingly obvious that they had checked out, and they were just like, they didn't care anymore. And if he had been sitting there, if he had been standing in front of that small room of about 40, 50 people, he would have definitely picked up on it. So how do you address that? That's more of a classroom sort of conference issue, not so much a mentoring thing. But if you're mentoring a large group, how do you? There's the whole panel thing. I saw Mastermind does his panels, which are so cool. He has 9 people on video. What do you guys think of that?
You have a good moderator keeping you on track.
Yeah, have a good moderator. What do you think about having the multiple video feed thing? Good point on keeping communication effective. In a classroom, there's not much emotion. Most of the teachers just read from slides. Well, that's true. That's not the kind of classroom that I would run. But
I think
that's largely dependent on the type of teacher.
Good at it.
Yeah. We had a couple people mentioning some things there. Let's go through those comments again. So, what was that? We had. Let's take you, Scream. What did you say?
Just per people just read from slides. Those are people that are in some ways either resigned to not hone their craft anymore, or they just really weren't that invested in getting good and progressing in the first place, and they're just not very good at the job to begin with.
Yeah, and that's a different issue. We're not going to go into it right now, but multi-feed, you need to mute. Was it Og or Binary? You both mentioned something on that too, on the whole reading from slides issue. How about start with Og? Did you have something?
I think that was Binary.
Oh, was it Binary?
Oh, it's just to complement what Scream was saying, like how there's good and bad workers in all fields, right? Yeah. It's quite apparent in teaching because yeah, you're going to have some teachers who will read from slides, whereas others will go above and beyond in terms of how they run their courses.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this gets into the whole, structured learning versus independent learning thing as well. But it's kind of a rabbit hole for right now to go down to. I mean, I love that topic because I mean, if reading from a slide is look, I'm like checking myself here. A lot of the stuff I did last week could be qualified as reading from slides. It was like, okay, this is the thing you need to go cover. This is the thing you need to go cover. Watch out for this. And in some sense that's reading from a slide, but that's also based on the 100% expectation that I'm talking to people that are going to go out and learn this stuff on their own as best they can and come to us when they get stuck. If you go into this, exposition presentation kind of traditional classroom kind of situation, you're like throwing rulers at people to wake them up so they pay attention, which actually happened in my kindergarten class. Mrs. Walling, God bless her. She would throw rulers at us to get us to pay attention. Let's see. I think over the next few years, State Space Signal says, we will find that people will be making hyper-effective courses because they make videos, live streams, forums, and slides in one single course, which helps people have focus, structure. Then the student will be able to grow on their own. I agree. I agree with that completely. I was kind of poking fun at the guy who made, the 7 tips for the best stream out there. But I tell you what, his stream was compelling. I mean, this whole thing that YouTubers do where they cut and then they there's never a break in what they're saying. They say something and then they cut and then they cut and then they cut and then they cut. I think that technique to a certain type of learner is effective because they're speaking quickly. There's actually a comment on his thing saying, oh no, it was another one. It was a girl streamer who was talking about YouTube versus Twitch. She's really personable. And she went through the same thing, but she was cutting herself all the time and injecting things. Whereas if you're presenting in front of a blackboard, your quality's not as good because you're pausing just like I just did.
A lot of that, they're cutting out all the ums and uhs as well.
Yeah. That's a good point. One of my old teachers would scratch her fingers on the blackboard. I assumed to get attention. Maybe she just liked it. Maybe. Does anybody actually like scratching their fingers? The never-ending talking is overwhelming. This is true too, though. So, I mean, that's a good point. That's the opposite of it, right? The opposite is that no one pauses to process the communication. And I'm a big pauser, even though I do kind of go all over the place. Salad fingers. Oh, gosh.
I think there's a place for both. And I actually think that when you're more personally invested in learning and understanding the material on a deeper level,
right,
there's far more value in somebody that's speaking pensively and organically developing the ideas, because that's the skill that you want.
Mm-hmm.
So observing somebody practicing that and then working through their problem solving process in real time is, I think, far more valuable than something that's very edited and manicured so that it flows very quickly from one thing to the next.
Yeah, I absolutely love
really
that
the way
point.
that people think.
I can't tell you how much I love that point, Scream. I really, really value that comment, because that is so important, going through the process of learning. And there's pluses and minuses to both. I mean, so we've had people say, Standardless says, the never-ending talking, the stream of talking with no break is exhausting and overwhelming. But if you're trying to recreate the thought process, particularly, this is why I find, so I was watching, I think it was Primegian, I was watching him do his coding, and his thought process is so fast when he's going through decisions about where to put things and stuff. And it was just fascinating to see his thought process too, and then to compare them to, to others. That's definitely not how I am. I'm more, I don't know, I overly analyze an issue before I make a decision. So yeah, I think seeing the thought processes of people who know what they're doing or who do it professionally, that gets back to the problem of, like, are we watching teachers who are talking about a topic, or people who actually have skill or knowledge in a topic? And that's a bigger question, I think.
And again, I think there's a lot of value to both, because you don't want to be hyper specialized when you're trying to show people the breadth of things and get them to start working on their own. Those people are really better for people who have spent the time to invest in it, realize that this is the thing they want. So like, now let's really drill into that thing in a lot of detail.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, here's all of the things that you might be working on. So I think there's definitely a place for both people.
Yeah. Very, very good comments there. Let's see. Data says you need to see the faces of your students in your class. You can see if someone was stuck or not. This is so totally true. Why couldn't we all be on a stream at once? I'm having a Bible study with a congregation today. We have 120 on once at Zoom. Wow. Data. Yeah, go ahead.
That's an interesting point, and I think we're coming back full circle to where we were at the very beginning of the discussion, where like, hey, there's benefits to both, right? Where I'm saying I have those Google Meet meetings twice a week, so I get to see those students. I get to see my students. Get to like see their facial expressions, provided that they have their camera on, of course.
Yeah.
And so that way, like if they have questions, I am there, and then I am able to answer their questions and help them through a problem. And then, like on the other hand, it's really a combination of both, and I think there is an absolute importance to both as well. So,
yeah, I'm looking forward to the next phase of this for me is, in addition to the 3-hour random talking about what you should be learning, which I try to structure, I'm making actually succinct, here is how to run SSH keys, how to set up, like a video that doesn't mess around. It's very to the point. And I consider that kind of comprehensive content versus just kind of like conversational content, which is, has a different purpose, I think, to your point. As well.
Right, exactly.
Go
ahead.
To add to that, I'd also like to point out one thing that I noticed with my partner today was her tutor sparked disagreement within her thought process. And I think that that's something that people or tutors should strive to do, in my opinion, because what it caused her to do was to actually go to a different resource that wasn't her tutor or something that her tutor provided, and tried to find a different perspective or a different answer, and kind of formulated her own opinion from it.
Boy, I sure hope that's what people do on this stream too. I'm constantly like, look, I have strong opinions. I tease you about my opinions. Go check them. Go make your own conclusions. I want to believe that there are not that many educators in the world, even today, whose goal is to create dependency upon them. I think that's the minority. I want to believe it is anyway. Anybody out there have feelings?
Or even when we voice strong opinions, like Rob, you've voiced a lot of very strong opinions about things like, as an example, Bass versus CSH.
Yes.
And I think people should realize that when you do that, you're not like somebody that uses CSH as the devil, or like insert whatever the thing is that you have a strong opinion about.
Well, I'll call him the devil, but it's largely a joke.
To think about why you thought that.
Yeah. Usually I'll tell him why, usually. Sometimes I'm too tired. I'm like, no. If you use that, you're dumb. Don't use it. No, that's not what I say. But
what's the quote you say about strong opinions, Rob?
What's that? The quote?
What's the quote?
Actually, you know what? I heard that's a Silicon Valley saying, apparently. I don't know where it came from. I should probably look it up. But it's strong opinions weakly held, and I've kind of added to that, dogma is the devil, or dogma is death. Because, look, and first of all, people, this is not, we're talking about video, right? When I tweet a strong disagreement to somebody, it's on. It's a war. People hate you. They ban you. They get all mad. When I'm on here and I say, no, dude, if you're using Emacs, that's a bad idea for what you're using it for. It's a really bad idea. You should not do that. I can at least smile at them and joke around with it. And they can get the sense that, okay, he's not serious here. And you know, we do have fun with this, and we still have to be careful with the good nature of fun. I definitely do. Because people may still take away that, you know, I think that they're lesser of a human being because they made that decision. And again, attacking people, and I'm not attacking people, attacking ideas and not people, but man, have I failed at that. There's been many, many, many times during my life that I've failed at that. So that's a big thing to remember is, you know, to just, but I think this come about because you said that, your tutor, that your partner's tutor was, how's it going, clandestine? That your tutor was, that your partner's tutor was inspired to go actually check and see, well, what do you think about this, right? And I can't tell you how grateful I am for the stream helping me to check myself. And I was going back through my blog because I've been linking to it and migrating it over, and I'm like reading. I'm like, who the hell is this guy who's like got all these his angst? He's got, why is he so angry? And it's me. And it's that's what happens when you stew in your own juices, you know, and you just
oh yeah, do I know that?
You know, and you create this kind of, you know, angsty kind of acidic toxic thing brew inside of you, and then it ends up coming out in horrible ways. So, and in technology it's a big thing. And thank God, I mean, I was actually afraid of live streaming because I knew that about myself. I was afraid it would come out too much. But so we have another thing too about the live thing. I kind of want to wrap up on this is that when you have more than one person in a crowd, you know, digital online crowd, I say, somebody can say something that somebody else might have asked. So you get that sort of classroom idea. You have one person who's willing and, you know, dares to ask the question. Maybe they're even more inspired to ask the question because they're not being put front and center in the middle of, you know, a huge classroom in a college or something. So I think people are more likely to ask their questions when they need them. Let me read some comments here. A lot of people like the hacker culture. The memes and jokes are more, the memes and joke more than actually building software solutions. Yeah, that's probably true. Let's see, Clementino. I can't understand why Jay is moved down in Vim. It's so dumb. You're moving down as in forward a document. K should have been J, and K should have been up. Rage. Well, there are many things that should have been a different way, but those are things that have been adopted by the world. Some people would say the entire QWERTY keyboard is a fail, and that we should all be using Dvorak because it's more efficient. Let's see. What else we got? That's why people, that's me when people say VS Code is fast in terms of raging.
Yeah.
Fast compared to what? A typewriter? Zero. That's funny. So we're just having fun.
Question, Rob?
Sure.
Would you ever be open to the idea of hosting your video content on your website?
Well, I went ahead on my RWX Rob.live. I actually streamed. I embedded the Twitch stream in case anybody hasn't noticed, and my content so far is I don't know how I would put it on my website, to tell you the truth, because that means like storing your videos, and I know that, you know, the Jamstack approach to creating content does not play well with large amounts of video data. So I have been dependent on YouTube and Twitch and things like that as for video services. However, when you do that, you can't distribute the thing. But I mean, that's an interesting question though. Is like, how would you distribute your video content?
Yeah, well, the only reason why I ask is because I'm always concerned with YouTube and Amazon, whether or not they would go after people who download the content. And even though you've said your content is open source and Creative Commons, you know, it's still, I think, legally owned by the platform that hosts it.
Is it? I'll have to look into it.
That would be my assumption.
Yeah, no, let's definitely figure that out. Who owns your content on YouTube? That's a big question, and that's directly related to this conversation that we started out with. Yeah, but just podcast of your class on RJBGG. The problem with a podcast, which I think in particular this coffee conversation plays very well into a podcast because it's almost all audio. I think most of those things require you to host your media someplace else. And I actually used the YouTube downloader tool for Linux to get some of these backgrounds, which are Creative Commons. And I don't know, as of this moment, whether that's within violation of YouTube terms. So I know lots and lots of people do it, but that's a good question. We'll need to look at that up. In terms of hosting your content someplace else, then you're talking about a server, and a server that's going to be pushing a lot of bandwidth.
Yeah.
But the advantage of that, however, is that you have full control of it. And I'm almost positive Vimeo never touches your IP. And I have a feeling that that's why a lot of people, a lot of real, film artists use Vimeo because it's, hands off. This is just a place to put your stuff. So I actually am going to think about it.
That's why I suggested that I'd be willing to host your videos, but I don't want to have to go through YouTube and download it through YouTube and
get it that way. Yeah, well,
yeah.
When I just so everybody knows, I've used that computer downstairs. We won't do bad things, we promise. Let's see.
But in a way, we kind of come back to some of the things we're talking about, the head of the conversation when it comes to discoverability, because that's the whole advantage and point of having things up on YouTube.
Yeah, I agree.
Really,
No, I totally agree. The question though is can you? So there's another question: can you publish it to YouTube and still maintain your IP? And so, for example, I have all the videos now. I've been storing them on my hard drive. When I do Twitch Start, it creates a video. And so there is a deep web YouTube, but it's horrible, like using iSoap. But Vimeo is not good for discoverability. Yes. So is it possible to post to Vimeo and to, there was when I started doing tutorial videos for Second Life years ago, 2007, there was a service. I don't know if anybody remembers it. But you uploaded your video to the service and it would upload your video to like 20 different video hosting services at the same time. And to this day, there's still stuff out there I find that I haven't been able to track it all down because it spams your videos to every possible platform. How does LBRY do embedding? Don't know. But these are really good questions. I'm going to go take these away. I do need to call it short. I want to keep it to an hour. Thanks for asking that question, though, because that's got me thinking about offline content in general. Another advantage of offline content, yeah, you can definitely ask questions. Another question about offline content is offline content can be shipped as an app. So I can actually bundle it into an app, not even just a progressive web app, but like an actual app if I ever wanted to do that. But it's a lot harder to manage your own video because you've got to, you got to pay for the bandwidth, you got to host it, stuff like that. So
store it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time, Rob.
Yep, no problem. We got another question. Maestro, what do you got? Or Maesto, did I say that right? Maesto? Do you have a question, Mia, that you want to ask us? I don't see it. It's probably lagging behind a little bit. I guess I'll give him a little bit of time.
It's going to be one of those paragraph questions.
Let's see. First time in stream, but it was great content. Well, thanks for coming by. This is not what we do every day. But speaking of every day, today I am off early. There's a good chance I'll be on tonight. Plugging away at my dot files and my building tool and blah, blah, blah. Trying to organize next week. Just a plug for next week to anybody who's watching. Next week is the second week of the Beginner Boost, the Linux Beginner Boost. And that means that, let me see if I can pull it up. I need an alias for this so it goes faster. rwx.gg. So here's the question. So I'm head of Cybersecurity Society in my college. Any advice for a good event or the likes to hold? Obviously, online takes the cake now. I don't know. There's probably a lot of people in here who might suggest some events, but I don't have.
Over the wire?
Over the wire. I think he's looking for online events that are taking place. CTF for sure. Clandestine Ops is your best person to ask that kind of stuff right now. This background is cute. Well, it's it's a background. So let's see here. So the schedule for next week is all things Linux. Someone called it kind of a laid back week. That's not how I would characterize it, although it is probably more laid back than last week. We're going to be doing all things Linux. In a nutshell, we're going to try to cram Linux Essential certification into 1 week, which means, how to install it, what's the history, what are the licensing involved, why you care. So Linux is like the main topic, getting Linux, running it, why you should do so, what's its future, what's its past. That is next week, which next week is actually tomorrow. So tomorrow at 11 a.m. My time, and then we'll be putting out the things. If you want to watch me this later tonight, I'll be doing a lot of writing. I may not be watching the chat though, because I really need to get a lot of stuff done. Okay, so people were talking about forensics and cybersecurity in the chat. Don't forget to join us on the Discord. I did down below. I changed the panels and made them a lot simpler. Just click on chat, and that'll get you into Discord. If you want to ask more questions about stuff that are not going to float away because Twitch doesn't store it, you can go for that. Otherwise, I'm just going to say thank you to everybody again for a great Mentor Coffee Talk. I won't be able to post this until tomorrow, but look for it up online. And we'll have a lot to think about between now and then. So for next week, I'm tempted to think about some of these. I mean, there's lots of other topics. I don't think I have a decision right now, but we'll just say this.
Thank you for hosting, Rob.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, thank you.
And if you guys have if you have a topic that you want to consider, drop it in the chat, and maybe we can give that some thought. All right. So anybody else out there want to say goodbye? Take care. It's been great.
I'm gonna make myself suck up right now, and I just say I've been watching the week 1 of the beginner boost this entire time.
Oh wow!
And I haven't really discovered you until this week through Ice Cream Man.
Oh wow!
And I'm very, very impressed. I've been wanting to look into Linux and all this stuff for a while now, and you break it down so gracefully. So I've been learning a lot, and I love the content. So.
That's a very, very nice way to put it. It helps to teach 10-year-olds. And so sometimes guys, you can't talk about that. That's too advanced. We're gonna make sure, but it has really helped. Hopefully, it will keep it simple and yet still fun. I'm really looking forward to next week. So we'll see you then. Otherwise, I'm gonna say goodbye for this week. Bye.